Folks, I am joined by, I believe, the first Ring of Honor uh, member on my interview little series here, which is very, very cool because I think Ring of Honor is probably my favorite promotion of all time.
Mm.
And of course, it is the world famous Cheeseburger. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
I'm just gonna immediately put him over. Ben Breachin from Razor Pro made this happen. He was like, bro, yeah, like Cheeseburger was just here. And he was like, he's so down to do an interview, man. I was like, great, great. Life happened. And then finally he's like, hey, man, like, I will give you his number. And I was like, then we're doing it immediately. And yeah, I went fucking back, man. Of course, I think if my research is correct, you were trained in the Ring of Honor dojo, correct? Is that original?
Yep, the Ring of Honor dojo that back then called the Ring of Honor Academy. I started there in October 25th, 2010. That was my first day walking into the wrestling school.
Holy shit, man. And that is a whole different world. That
hmm
was
hmm Big,
probably the
big time.
only, oh God. I mean, you still had, like the American Wolves guys
Yep.
there. I mean,
hmm
Rollins just had left and wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
Rollins.
When I got there, Nigel and Brian had left like the year before. Seth Rollins had just got signed like a couple of months before. Um, and I like my first like year or so. I think Claudio ended up leaving in 2011 or 2012 maybe.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right.
but yeah, like at the time I had like the roster was absolutely insane because there were a lot of the originals still left, but then a lot of the young guys were coming in. So you had like you obviously the Briscoes were there, and you had like Chris here and Claudio. Haas and Benjamin had just kind of came in like the year before or a couple months before. The American Wolves were on the American Wolves were starting to get pushed as that main event, more of a main event act. AMX were on the rise. O'Reilly and Adam Cole had just come in. Elgin had just popped in. House of Truth was kind of getting built up. Lethal ended up coming back like the year at like that to that 2011.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like it was just like a whole like crew, like the level of talent on that roster was so stacked.
I mean, and it really does make a whole lot of sense of what you became because another guy that I talked to, another ROH guy that I definitely want to do one of these with is Shane Hagedorn,
Mhm.
who, I had kind of trade back and forth DMs. And I mean, he said straight up with them, the original Ring of Honor school with Punk and
Yep.
Joe just beating the shit out of them basically all the time. And he said, they threw us to the wolves, man. There was no grace period at all. It was like, okay, you're graduated and like you're now on the road,
Yep.
setting up, paying your dues. And I would imagine that was very similar to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even like when I started training before I even graduated, I was already on the road, like helping out and getting to know a lot of the roster. And I would travel with the ring crew, set up the ring, everything. Like, almost every at the time, I want to say Ring of Honor was running about 2 weekends out the month, some most months. So I would usually leave like that Friday, be there Friday, Saturday on the road, travel with them, get back home Sunday, sometimes Monday. But I was only 17 at the time, so I was still in high school. So I was missing classes a lot in high school to go help out with Ring of Honor shows and travel and set up the ring and everything. And I remember I think my high school, if I remember right, you had about like 15 unexcused absences or something, and that you just failed. So I think I got to like that limit. They're like, all right, you can't miss any more classes or any more days of school. You're gonna fail. But I was traveling as much as I possibly could with them.
Well, you got to, man, get off the get on the ground running. And that's very similar to Nick Manawa from IWA Mid South,
Mhm.
who said straight up, I missed a lot of shows in 2005 because I basically almost failed out of high school, so
Yeah.
I had to like I was like on fucking probation from going to shows. So that's hilarious. You managed to do it, man. You didn't
hmm
Manawa it. You definitely stuck with it and kept
hmm
it to that limit.
Absolutely.
uh Now it shows from again the crack research that we've done, and of course we all know if it is on the internet, it is truth. That Delirious and Daisy Hayes were like your main trainers.
Yep. the Delirious and Daisy Hayes were both my trainers. Also, Grizzly Redwood was there as the assistant trainer. Uh, Delirious and Daisy both ran the school. For the vast majority of the time that I was there. And then eventually, like Daisy took a step back from professional wrestling, and then it was just Delirious. And then I eventually became one of the assistant trainers with Will Ferrara as well. But yeah, my initial training from the beginning was Delirious and Daisy Hayes, and I credit them as my trainers and the people that gave me that foundation and people that helped build me up and the people that kept me like in wrestling when I thought it was like very tough and I was getting ready to quit the training and everything. But it was both of them.
I mean, that's like honestly, I can't think of two more perfect people for a young wrestler specifically to have trained them because they 100% understand that mindset because they were grinding on the Midwest Indies
Hmm.
for nothing for a long time. Like I
Hmm.
think people really forget like Delirious specifically was like grinding for a long time before anyone ever saw him, and that guy does not get enough credit for how good he is. And said
Hmm.
IWA Mid South, that go back and watch some of those mid 2000s IWAs and obviously Ring of Honor. I mean, dude could
Absolutely.
go. He
Yeah,
had
though,
CM
yeah.
Punk's last match in Ring of Honor,
Hmm.
I believe.
There were some those classic clips from IWA. Like you would see the I remember when I first got into independent wrestling, I would see like the Delirious like El Generico clips, like the Delirious like CM Punk clips. A bunch of just random like IWA Mid South clips would pop up, mainly featuring him, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, dude. And then Daisy Hazel, obviously, I
Yeah,
mean,
one of the
does
best.
not get enough credit for how good she
Hmm.
was and took like crazy bumps before like women took crazy bumps.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
she was so incredibly talented, so good. Her and like Sarah Del Rey and like Mischief, like Cheerleader Melissa, and like you know, so many of those people in that mid 2000s were like trailblazers for women's wrestling that don't get nearly enough credit like these days and are kind of like not like people still I feel like people still talk about Sarah like a lot, but I feel like Daisy and like Mischief, like Cheerleader Melissa, among others, like don't get nearly enough praise for just how much they like really push the envelope with women's wrestling.
Oh yeah, man. I was on MySpace for that Sarah Del Rey, like early shimmer wave, and people
Yeah, yeah,
really kind of
yeah.
forget, like there was a huge like peak of interest in women's wrestling that was not like eye candy related at all. Like we really like appreciated how badass these women were and like they
Hmm.
were having killer matches. So that's super cool. And then obviously, you graduate and it feels like there's like either like a break in the results that I see, or like you don't really kind of do a lot of major stuff till like 2012-ish.
Uh, I didn't debut until 2012.
Okay.
So, but from 2010 to 2012, I was just a student, just helping out. So I didn't have my first match until May 4th, 2012. So I trained for about from October 2010 till May 2012 before I had my first match. It's on the actually ran on an indie show in Delaware, ran by the Briscoe brothers, which is really cool. Fun fact. I was just like a 3 minute squash with this really big dude. But yeah, I trained for about a year and a half before I had my first match.
And I think that probably did you a lot of good because
Mhm.
I think you were way more prepared than a lot of people. It's like amazing. I talk to these wrestlers and you'll be like, "When was your first match?" And they'll be like, "I was 3 months in the business," or
Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, "What are you talking about?" One of the crazy ones, and I didn't interview him. I just heard one of his interviews is Nathan Mowry, who straight up was like, "Yeah, my first match ever was a death match with Tank," and I'm like, I cannot
Oh
imagine
my God.
your first match being a death match. Thank
That's to
God you
say.
you didn't go through the CZW ROH dojo, so you didn't have to deal with that, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, it was Um, it's always interesting how long people have to train before their first match. It's always like it's a I would say it depends on person to person, but also depends on like school to school, where like some schools are a camp-based system where it's like, hey, you train for X amount of like set time. Like I believe like like for instance, like Lance Storms back in the day was like I think a 12-week program. So you train for like that 12 weeks and then you can debut and if you pass the program, you like graduate and everything. And some places are even shorter than that, where it's like 10 weeks or 8 weeks. And but with us, with the way Ring of Honor work and the way I run my school as well, it's not like a specific program. It's basically like, hey, can you show that you kind of understand the parts of a match? Can you understand kind of how to put together a match and how to work with someone and understanding the fundamentals of professional wrestling? And you're never, I tell my students too, you're never like truly ready for your first match. Like no matter how long you train, you're never really ready. Like I trained for a year and a half and that was great. Like I was also a very slow learner. But I felt adequately prepared for my first match, but you're never truly ready because nothing can replicate the feeling of like walking through the curtain and being in front of a crowd, like not just like the energy of the crowd, but like the nerves you feel beforehand and everything. It's just such a different vibe than training. But yeah, a year and a half, and they got me ready. They really got me ready training.
And I think that that really does feel like the right way to do it because everyone learns differently.
Mhm.
Like my wife's in education, so like I am very tuned into that because I hear about it a lot about like, you know, you have to be very aware that everyone's different and that everyone's brain's different, everyone's body's different. And that's another one too, is, you know, I feel like it's really important, and we'll just get into you being a trainer because, you know, I hear a lot about the Worldwide Dojo. Who are some of the people that you have trained?
We have a good list of people. I would say from the older crew, Eli Isom, Ryan Mooney. He used to be Ryan Nova in Ring of Honor, but Eli Isom and Ryan Mooney, they were the first two students I had ever got signed to like contracts. They both were under contract in Ring of Honor, and we were a trio there. That was awesome. Vita Von Star, who was also in Ring of Honor at the time. Um, Oh guys, I'm trying to think of like some of the older crew. Dylan Mesh, who's been a long-standing wrestler like around this area in the Northeast and everything. Wheeler Yuta as well. I wasn't Yuta's original trainer, but he had come with us. We moved up here, trained with us for a while at Worldwide, and was splitting time between like Worldwide and like the Chikara school as well. Um, Now from like the current crop, I would say off the top of my head, Sturdy Sal Mastretta, Junie Underwood, Flying Ryan O'Neal, they've all been, if you watch GCW, like you'll see those three pop up on like at least one or all three of them on like almost every show, or like JCW as well. They're going out there, they're getting out there really well and just absolutely killing it. Harleen Lopez as well, who's currently on the injured list, unfortunately. We hope she gets well soon.
Oh, I love
She's
her.
Yeah, she was doing great around the indie scene here as well. Oh gosh, you put me on the spot. I feel bad. I'm trying to think because there's like a lot. It's hard to like
A
name
lot.
as many people because there are always going to be some people that I leave out. Yeah, Sal, Judy, Ryan, David Moses, who's Sturdy Sal's tag partner of the state champs, a really fun tag team. Just had their first set of tag belts. They actually won in Delaware, which is awesome to see. Um, uh, Someone's gonna listen to this and be like, "Hey, why didn't you mention me?" I'm like, "I
And
got
be
put on the
like,
spot."
brother.
But yeah, that we
Yeah.
have a lot of students. Both students from the past, from when I was a trainer at the Ring of Honor in like the early days of Worldwide, and then now student this current crop and this current crop. Like the last like year and a half, I feel like they've been really like hungry and like getting out there, getting booked a lot of places, wrestling almost every weekend, like traveling, doing things like that, and really putting their foot forward. And the other students I feel like see that, and that's really motivating them to kind of continue that journey as well.
It's so much. You and Jaden Newman are like two peas in a pod because it's like he said the exact same thing about his TWE kids. Like he's
Mm.
just like, it's nice to see people that train and it really is about watching the growth and
Yeah.
being there for them,
Hmm.
and not it being a, hey kid, you know, give me 4 grand and here's a wrist lock, see you later. And that happens a lot. And I mean, people that end up being something have to go through that, and it's like,
Hmm.
that's bullshit. Like how
Yeah.
about just like train them, man?
Right.
that weird part about wrestling where we still want to hang on to that like guarded thing. Like I will be honest, I am an old fan. I've been watching since 94. I do believe that there should be a level of you know, fogginess there. But
Mhm.
don't insult people. Like
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
just
absolutely.
like welcome them in if they put forth the effort and the work ethic. And it's neat to hear you basically like, hey man, like just put the work in and I will show you the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree. Like wrestling has so many very old, like antiquated, like unwritten rules that they just expect people to just automatically know without being like told. Um, or just things that are very old school that like doesn't that like don't really apply to like things today, you know. So I don't know. That's a whole other discussion, but there's so
Mhm.
many things like that in wrestling. And like, you know, historically wrestling has been a very toxic profession and environment, especially towards newer people coming in and breaking into the business. And yeah, part of my goal with my school is to kind of like break that cycle and um, you know, try and show people that like, hey, this thing, we can work hard, we can have fun, we can do this, we can be in this together. It doesn't have to be like backstabbing and like political and all this like drama and stuff like that. Like at the end of the day, this professional wrestling and we're all independent wrestlers, like, and we need to work together to make this work. You know, like we need each other in this to make this work.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the only old school mentalities that I do think should always stick is this is a like fraternity, brotherhood, family thing. Like I think people really forget that part. You're supposed to be working together and make
Mhm.
sure that everyone goes home safe. And it's just weird to see that change, you know, because like it does feel like there was that element. Like, I mean, I think when you broke in, that was still very much a part of that. There was, of course, a lot of drama, and
Mhm.
you know, you were in a weird time where like iPay-per-view just kicked
Yeah,
off,
yeah.
and so it's like that competitiveness had to have just amped up because now it's like I want to be at Ring of Honor because
Mhm.
they're on Go Fight.
Yep.
I gotta be seen. So I do see that changing overall in wrestling now, though. The selflessness is definitely being celebrated more. Totally pivoting back, where does the cheeseburger name come from?
So that's the question I get asked most
Yeah.
often, and it's always a fun story to tell it. So when I started training in 2010, I was 17 years old. I was like 120 pounds, like super young. And my first at the time, a lot of students had like nicknames and things like that. I only been training a couple of weeks at this point. My first road trip, we were going to the Midwest. We're going to I believe Ohio and Chicago or Detroit and Chicago. I think Ohio and Chicago. Um, and we're the ring used to be kept out back. We were loading up the ring in the storage unit, and Rhett Titus had came and he was going on the road trip and everything. So I remember seeing Rhett. I was like, oh, like that's Rhett Titus. Like he's a you know a guy that graduated from the ROH school, and also like I've seen him on the Ring of Honor shows, and he's like a big part of it. And like, okay, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like that he's here. And I remember going up to meet Rhett, and I stuck my hand out to say hello to Rhett Titus, and he looks at me. He goes, man, you need to eat a cheeseburger. And that was like the first thing he said to me. And all the other students like popped at Grizzly Redwood. He was like, so, oh, that's it. That's going to be his nickname, Cheeseburger. And the older students, their advice for me or like their weight gain plan for me for was like, hey, anytime we stop at a rest area, you have to eat a cheeseburger. And that's going to be like how you're going to gain weight for wrestling. um, so that just became a nickname that people knew me around. And then as I went to shows and helped out, guys in the locker room knew me as Cheeseburger and just kind of called me that. Like no one really knew my real name. And then so I had started wrestling a year before this had happened. I originally wrestled under a mask gimmick. And then it was January 2013. I made my like unofficial like Ring of Honor debut, which was a segment with Charlie Haas, where Charlie Haas was the big heel at the time. He was cutting a promo at the Do Burns Arena in Baltimore, and like fans were like throwing trash into the ring, all this stuff. And the idea with the segment was I was like a ringside student, just helping out, collecting gear, doing streamers, things like that. So I was going to go in and like clean out the trash, and then Charlie was going to yell at me, and then like cut a promo on me and like beat me up. That was just kind of like the this was like a nothing segment to get Charlie some heat. Um, So we do the segment. I'm getting tries out the ring. Charlie yells at me. He tells me, he's like, hey, get in the ring. He's like cutting the promo on the mic and just completely like off the cuff. He goes, hey, what's your name, kid? And I tell him my name. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna call you Cheeseburger. You looking to eat a cheeseburger because he just thought it'd be funny. And the whole crowd just started chanting cheeseburger. And then he beat me up, whatever. There was like maybe 600, 700 people at the New Burns Arena at that time, and they all just like, yeah, cheeseburger. And then me and Charlie like did the segment, beat me up, get to the back, and Delirious, who was my trainer and also my boss, because he was the booker and executive producer for Ring of Honor, he goes, hey, we might have something to this cheeseburger thing. And I was like, I remember thinking like, man, I really don't want to be called cheeseburger. I hope that doesn't happen. And then here we are, like that was 2013, 13 years later. So,
Uh-huh.
yep. And
That's what the big question for me is how you have like managed to evolve this and keep relevant and be over. Like, I
mm,
mean, you feel like one of those you know what it is I love about like your thing. It's very similar, and you're definitely going to be like, wow, that's great. It's almost like Liger
mm.
in the sense that outside of wrestling, you'd be like, what in the hell is this? Right.
Yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
in wrestling, that has respect and cachet. And you know what I mean? Like, no one
Mm,
looks at Liger as like, what is this weirdo in a full bodysuit? We look at him as a legend because in context, we see that. It's very similar with you, right? Like, you've reached that point where you are somebody that is a veteran in this business and very well respected. No one even bats an eye. Like, I'm a huge, we'll get into that about Power Pro Lucha,
mm,
huge fan. And you are, I don't think I'm remiss to say, a top person in that company,
mm.
and it never feels bizarre. It never feels
Yeah, yeah.
off. How do you think well, what do you think, I guess is the better question, has been the difference between you and people that are like quote unquote meme wrestlers that sort of fizzle out?
I think crowd connection is the biggest thing. Like no matter what we do in professional wrestling, like we need to connect with the crowd, and I think that's the art of wrestling is making people feel something, whether it's like an emotion or uh oh yeah, well yeah, like an emotion, like anger, laughter, joy, sadness, whatever that may be, and then everything else kind of like starts to fall into place, and if you can just make people feel something like anything, and I think also because the story of Cheeseburger, like Cheeseburger originally was like made by the fans, basically. Like those fans didn't chant cheeseburger, like it wouldn't happen. So I think especially early on in Ring of Honor, when that started happening, the fans felt a really strong connection with it because it was like, hey, this is something we created, which is true. Like it was created by the fans because the fans demanded a guy being called cheeseburger, and here I am, you know. And then I think just understanding like being that underdog, that's that's a story that people can connect, like a lot people of all different walks of life can connect to, like the smaller guy trying to overcome the odds and fight against these bigger obstacles. And it's just a story that everyone in their life, even if they're like a bigger person, they've gone through something like physically or mentally that they had to overcome and like push through. And I think that's like the biggest thing. And me understanding how to connect with people emotionally and draw that out of them and make them interested in my performance, even if they don't like me necessarily as a wrestler. I feel like I can get people pretty much all walks of life to at least like feel something through my matches. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that's kept me around.
Yeah, and I think too that you have that in you that sadly not enough people have, which is the drive to learn. Feel like you are one of the prime examples of somebody
Mm,
like you could do this for 40 years and you're gonna like still like go to seminars of certain people, right?
mhm.
And you're gonna be like, I gotta know more.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think of people like that, like Steve Carino and
Mm,
like anyone that is timeless, like that defies age. And obviously Liger is one of them. And you got to tag with Liger
mhm.
for a little bit, and that parlayed into you going to New Japan. Like, how did that come together? Because that had to feel very surreal.
That came together. That's also like an interesting story where I tell the story like sometimes at seminars or my to my students if they ask me how I got Japan, but I'll give you kind of the abridged version. But basically, when yeah, I was wrestling for Ring of Honor, but obviously I was still like helping out. I was still doing ring crew and helping out as much as I could. So when the New Japan talent started coming over in 2014, in 2015, 2016, like those early years, I was the person that would take care of them when they came over to America. Um, Delirious had messaged me saying, "Hey, I need some help. Like, come with the New Japan guys are coming to the airport in Philadelphia." I was just coming back from a road trip in Toronto for the shows. He's like, "Hey, I know you just got back home, but would you be able to help me out?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So helped them out, took care of them, took them out to eat, everything like that. And the next day, they're like, "Hey, we want to go around Philadelphia to see some of the stuff from Rocky. Like, would you be ready to take us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." I was in like college at the time, so I finished my college classes, went to pick them up, took them around Philadelphia, one of my friends, and we got dinner and everything. And the next day, they were here. They got them back and forth. There was like two seminars they were hosting at the school. Got them to New York for the big show, and they were just super thankful. They gave me a bunch of gifts and everything. And then the next year, the Ring of Honor office was like, "Hey, you did such a good job with the New Japan talent that we want to have you take care of them again." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." And I wasn't doing it to like get anything. Just I was like, "Oh, these guys are like really nice and like they're super cool
Yeah.
to be around. I just want to like help out." So I took care of them again in 2015, and then later that year, I got a call from the ROH office, and they were saying, "Hey, New Japan just sent us the list for the Tokyo Dome show, and you're on the list. They want to bring you over. They want to say thank you for always taking care of them." And I was in my head thinking, "Whoa, holy, like that's insane. Like that is absolutely
Yeah.
insane." Because going to my dream was never like WWE or obviously no AEW at the time, or even like I trained at Ring of Honor. My dream wasn't even necessarily being in Ring of Honor, but like I love Japanese wrestling. I always wanted to go to Japan, and the fact that I was getting to debut not just in Japan, but to debut in New Japan at the Tokyo Dome was mind blowing. Like that just doesn't happen. And yeah, it was. I got booked at the Rumble. I did really well, and they ended up booking me the next day, and then they booked me for the next 3 or 4 years before COVID happened, and yeah, it was an awesome time.
Yeah, I mean, and you got over there, you know? It's like they loved the cheeseburger thing, and it's really neat to see. And like
Mm.
I said, you put the work in, you know, you never were complacent, and you know, you go from that to obviously COVID happens, and like, you know, I haven't really been able to ask anybody that was wrestling at that time. That had to feel like the world ending in
Oh
every
yeah, that's crazy.
possible way.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just from a life perspective for everybody, like no one knew what was happening. It was just like the most insane period of our lives, and being on lockdown and quarantine and all that, it was ridiculous.
yeah, and I believe you were still in Ring of Honor at the time, right?
Yeah, we were doing I was in Ring of Honor from 2010 up until 2022 before they shut down and then eventually got sold to AEW. So 12 years I spent in Ring of Honor, from which it's insane. I literally grew up there from being a teenager, from being 17 to 29, which is
Wow.
absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah.
But during COVID, we were doing these like closed off quarantine bubble tapings. We would it was that was a whole just weird process. Like I could do a whole podcast for like the quarantine bubble
Oh,
like era of Ring of Honor. But long story short, we would have to spend a week in the quarantine bubble. They would have like an entire like hotel block for us, or like a whole block of rooms, I should say, for us. And we would get tested beforehand, and then we would go there. We would get tested in the bubble, and then we have to get tested before we left. So we had three different tests. If you got cleared from the second test, we were only able to either go to the arena and back to the hotel. We could schedule gym time at the hotel if we needed it, but we weren't allowed. Once we were in the bubble, we weren't allowed to leave and go out or do anything. Or you broke quarantine, you have to leave. Um, and it was it was like I enjoyed it. A lot of people didn't like it. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was like kind of neat. Not the COVID part, obviously, but just
right.
like when I'm home, I don't really like do anything anyway. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stay here in a week and just, I'll work out in my room. I'll like watch wrestling. I'll just be chilling out and then go to the bubble, wrestle. I didn't mind wrestling in front of no crowds, because I thought it gave me a chance to experiment with things a bit more. Because it's hard to try stuff in wrestling because you don't want to try something and have it get no reaction. But because we didn't have to worry about a crowd reaction, we were able to experiment, try different stuff. I was able to change my character a bit, try a different style. I was able to do the pure rule style, more technical. Um, and just really, I feel like it gave me a lot of confidence as a wrestler. Um, just getting to practice more of that technical style and like learn that well. Have to worry about, okay, we gotta do like some kind of like high impact thing because the crowd, like especially in America, American crowds are trained to react to the bump sound, so we have to do like a big bump here. Whereas it's like, hey, we don't have a crowd, so we can just focus on really just like grappling and like technical stuff and like really, really like get in deep with it.
I love that you said that because I have felt like a psychopath. One of my favorite eras of wrestling is pandemic era wrestling because if you think about
Mhm.
it, it's exactly what you said. I never really thought about why I preferred it or why I liked it. It's not even that I prefer it, but certain things I did. I think the ROH pure title whole tournament was
Mhm.
brilliant. I loved
Yeah,
all of that because of what you're saying. Like everything felt fresh and different, and guys were doing different things because I mean, was it going to bomb? Everything's bombing,
right.
like
Absolutely.
uh I think that you also saw a lot of people come out of their shell because
Hmm.
there was not that pressure on them live to cut a money promo or whatever. It's like, hey man, like I want to cut a money promo, but I'm also like, I gotta do something to make this like feel like some sort of like creative venture. I mean, you can't just go off script. Um,
Hmm. Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
I love to hear that. I mean, my God, I'm so weird about pandemic wrestling. I'm writing about WXW's pandemic wrestling. So uh that's cool to hear a wrestler
Mhm.
actually say like that was cool. And yeah, I'm the same way by the way. When I'm home, I don't want to do anything at all. My
Yeah,
wife knows
absolutely.
that. Yeah. The worst part about the pandemic was how much money we spent on like DoorDash.
Yeah, yeah. What was cool about the
God.
bubble, which I appreciate, they would give us like we had like a $50 a day like per diem to like order
Oh,
food and stuff like that. And so that was nice. There were and had like a lot of really nice restaurants. So I was like every day that $50 was coming in, just spending that on DoorDash, like Uber Eats and stuff like that. And some guys would like especially like the last day before they left and went back home, they would get like use the $50 to get like some groceries and stuff so they could have stuff at home, which I was like, oh shit, that's a genius idea.
very genius. Yeah, you gotta play with the system, man.
Hmm.
Sometimes, especially if you're an indie wrestler. My God, I can't
Absolutely.
imagine. So yeah, you said you were in Ring of Honor till 2022. What happens after that? That had to kind of be a bit of a shock. I mean, your whole professional career, you've been affiliated with Ring of Honor on some level. What
Hmm.
was kind
Yeah.
of the next move?
So actually I want to make sure I got my time frame right. Yeah, AW bought Ring of Honor in 2022, correct?
I was at the show that it was announced. Yeah, I would believe it was March 1st, 2022.
Okay, yes, yeah, I get, yeah, I keep thinking for some reason I jump ahead to 2023, but I try and go based off of like what year the manias were because we had mania in
Mhm.
Texas. That was when we were going to come back for Supercard. So, yeah, we
Mhm.
all got fired via Zoom to Ring of Honor essentially. That how was it? So final vow was in December, I think November. We got fired, and it was like, hey, the company's like not enough money's like coming in during the pandemic, which it was like a weird like how do I say this? They did things right during the pandemic. They were like Ring of Honor was the only I appreciate that we were the only company doing things right. We were the only company that didn't have like a huge COVID outbreak like WWE, AEW, a couple of indie places like all had big COVID outbreaks because they were doing testing, but I think it was like very loose testing and no one was doing like the
Yeah.
bubble. But the fact that we spent a lot of money for the bubble was like the testing was expensive, getting hotel rooms for like all of the staff, wrestlers, everyone for an entire week was expensive. Renting an entire arena for a whole week like everything. Like they spent a lot of money to actually to make this happen, and also make sure we were safe and there weren't outbreaks and things like that. And I appreciate that we were the only company doing that at the time, and we didn't have crowds back for ages, like ages. Like obviously like, WWE did the Thunderdome thing, and AEW had their thing with Daily's Place, like social distancing and everything. But we were like I think we were one of the last companies to really like have like fans back in any capacity. So they really, really did their due diligence to make sure we were safe and everything. I do appreciate that. It just sucks that there was no real money coming back in because of that. So eventually, the thing that saved all of us ended up being the thing that kind of killed the company. Um, and they told us like, hey, we're not going to be renewing any contracts in December. We're going to take out. So the actual plan was to take a hiatus and come back in April. Like, that was the plan from the start. And then I believe around that March, like maybe Sinclair started getting offers from like I think WWE and AEW, if I'm not mistaken, and they ended up just cutting the losses and saying like, all right, we're just going to sell this, and that was that. The funny part was we got told on Zoom, I think in that November, that hey, you're basically all getting fired at the end of the year. But then the week after that, we had to come for our last taping. So we're like, hey, we're gonna lose our yeah, what that for Final Battle. And I remember that last taping was so the vibe was so sad where it was kind of the taping where everyone kind of got the tears out and like people were crying and everything. We still had a great taping, everyone worked their ass off, but it was like so sad. And then Final Battle, the vibe was basically like, all right, we got all the tears out, let's just go out with a bang and let's kill it and let's have one of our best shows ever.
Yeah, that was a tremendous show.
Mm,
And yeah, I mean, it definitely, I mean, not even trying to throw shade, but it's definitely been a whole different thing since then. I mean, for good or bad, the AEW Ring of Honor, I mean, I've got the flag behind me
yeah.
here. It's not like I hate it. But it's hard to not sort of look at it like, man, in weird ways. And obviously, the big purge that ends up happening where,
Mm,
basically all of Bullet Club goes to New Japan. And then from there,
mm,
they start AEW. It's kind of hard not to look at that and think like that
mm.
kind of at the end of the day ended up being the death knell of Ring of Honor on top of a pandemic because it just never felt like outside of that anything stuck again in a
It's
big
tough.
way.
Yeah, it's tough. We were like a weird period. I think like that 2019 period was definitely very rough and people were definitely very down on Ring of Honor. I will say like 2020 we had some like really cool stuff planned for that year. And unfortunately obviously it never got realized because we were only around COVID hit, everything shut down I believe that March. But like I remember like seeing some of the plans, some of the things announced, and we had a lot of new people coming in, like a lot more international talent. Like Joe Hendry had just came in. We had a bunch of Australian talent scheduled to start with us. Session Moth Martina was in. So they were like trying to revamp the roster as well and get more people who were kind of stars internationally to come over to America, really like fresh up the roster. They had some cool stuff planned. I remember they had like I have the graphic saved somewhere on my phone, but I remember that 2020 Supercard, which was supposed to be in Florida, I believe. We had
Yep,
some like
Tampa.
some amazing matches like announced. And I think that was going to be like kind of the reset button for the company at the time. Like I remember they had a match. It was I want to say it was like Amazing Red, like Will Ospreay, and I think Rocky Romero maybe against like I want to say like Bandito and like Ray Horus and like someone else, like another like luchador. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be like the craziest match ever. That match never happened. I was like, damn. And I remember like they had like Dan Moff and Jeff Cobb versus like Kenta and like Taiji Ishimori. We had a bunch of New Japan
Oh,
people coming in. I was like, man, this car is about to be like this thing is about to be sick. And then sadly it never happened. But we did have some cool stuff planned. Like 2020 was going to be like that spark that we needed to kind of like compete against because AEW was obviously so fresh and so new at the time, and a lot of the Ring of Honor people ended up there. So Ring of Honor's like, hey, let's revamp the roster and let's really like kind of get that spark. So I'm really curious, like in an alternate timeline, like how that all would have turned out, but it's quite unfortunate. Also I realized I didn't answer your other question, which was like what kind of happened
love
after
it.
that. So for me, after we all got fired, and then I saw Ring of Honor got purchased by AEW. I was like, all right, well, like, what's next? And I remember thinking, like, all right, I don't really know, kind of like a lot of my life at that point in my career had been Ring of Honor, and now that's gone. Um, so I was like, well, what's next for me? And my next goal was to try and travel as much as I could and just get like I was like, all right, now obviously I can be sad and everything, or and do nothing about it, or just like put my feet to the ground and like start making things happen. And that year 2020, I ended up getting booked on a lot of the newer ROH stuff after I purchased that, which was really cool. The first three pay-per-views they did,
Yeah.
I ended up wrestling on all of those. So that was awesome. I ended up traveling to Europe that first year, 2022, and then the next year I went and lived in Mexico for a month training at Bandito's gym and like properly learned the lucha libre style, everything like that. The year after I went back to Europe, did 7 countries, and I told myself like, hey, I'm going to try and keep a full schedule as much as possible. I'm going to try and travel. Now I have the freedom to travel internationally because I don't have a company I'm tied down with. So I'm going to take the opportunity now that I have that.
Yeah, and I mean you clearly have picked up a lot because I do think you leveled up huge after you left Ring of Honor, and I think that it's very clear why. And one of the things, and I didn't know, is that you went to Mexico and trained in that Bandito's gym. I feel like my God, I mean you can't help but get really really good if you go to Mexico
Mhm.
and live amongst that culture.
Yes.
That had to be pretty cool because I know that you're really into lucha, like really
Yeah,
into
yeah,
lucha.
yeah, big time. And so you got the CMLL hat on. CMLL is one of my favorite companies. So I trained in lucha throughout the years of my training. Like Delirious taught us lucha. I had done seminars and trained with people from Chikara that taught me lucha. But I knew like Skida was like the forefather of a lot of my trainers, their lucha base. So I saw Skydo's training. He was one of the head trainers at Bandito's gym, and I knew Bandito, and I was like, hey, I want to come down and like train there. And Bandito's gym was amazing. Sadly, it doesn't exist anymore. It ended up getting purchased by a Psycho Clown. He owns the gym now. But before it was like this huge facility. They had a ring downstairs, and then the ground floor was basically like a Planet Fitness, like a gym for the public, and they had the ring in the corner behind some curtains. But the cool part of it was foreigners or like people in Mexico, they could rent they had like these like I want to say like maybe 15, 16 like dorm rooms upstairs, like on the third floor, and you could rent a room and the training was included. It was like 5,000 pesos a month, which was like 300, 350 American. It was like nothing at all.
Oh my god.
And that you can train as much as you want. They would have class every day but Sunday. They would have like 2 or 3 classes a day. They had a full like gym down there. They had like a cafe. They had kitchen, washer, dryer, like showers, everything. And you could just live at this gym and just be engulfed in professional wrestling. So I was there. I lived there for a month. I trained pretty much 5 days a week, 5 or 6 days a week, and I ended up doing like I think 4 shows during one time. I had six altogether, but I ended up having to cancel 2 of them because I ended up getting booked for one of the ROH AEW weekends. So I ended up leaving Mexico for like that weekend and coming back to finish my training. But yeah, I was like every single, and that was training in Mexico was probably no, not probably. It was the hardest training I had ever done. It was absolutely insane, super intense, but super awesome. I learned a ton of stuff. It was very rewarding, and yeah, I really treasure my time there.
Yeah, I mean, I have talked so often with certain people that just from the wrestling business that have been to Mexico. I like well Ben, our connection got pretty close with RAs, and they
Mhm.
was talking about how like, oh dude, you just see these people, they go to Mexico, it
Yeah.
doesn't take long, they just get it. And
Mhm. I got to
uh,
train with RS while I was down there. That was awesome. I knew Mr. Iguana and RS were running a
nice.
class at like Hercules Gym. So Iguana was like, "Hey, we're training this Tuesday. Like, if you gonna come down?" So I went and trained with them. It was like me, RS, Iguana, and then like Toxin and I think like 4 other like young kids. And dude, it was crazy. It was just like an hour and a half of just drills with just no break in between. It was just like go, go, go. And also with Mexico City, the thing people don't realize is because of the altitude, it takes some time to adjust to the air there. So by the time I came back, my conditioning was like the best it had ever been. But that first like week or 2 weeks, just getting used to conditioning there was brutal. But it was just like an hour and a half. I remember like we finally got to like the hour and a half, like close to 2 hour mark. And I remember thinking like, all right, I might be like tapping out. Like I might be close to like tapping out, or at least being like, hey, I need to like take a break because it was just like go and then you do a drill, you cycle back around, you have just enough time to catch your breath before like the next round started. And that class was awesome. I learned a lot from Ares.
Yeah, and another person that I just hear from everybody is just so nice and so generous and just it's funny the people that you hear are nice that look like they are so mean. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
Yeah.
that's wrestling's full of that. It's like the old adage of like the baby faces are the assholes and then the heels are the good guys. It's like not always, but there's definitely something about like really menacing badass looking people end up being so fucking
Oh,
cool.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's weird. But
Big time. That's yeah, that happens. It's crazy. It happens so often.
and then I mean you jump around all over the world. Have you ever done WXW?
Oh yeah, I've done WXW. I wrestled there once, but I've gone to Germany 3 times, I think. Actually, yeah, I've wrestled at WXW only once. I've gone to Germany 3 times, but two of those were just for training. One time I went and trained at WXW, in like oh gosh, 2017, 18, I want to say. And
Okay.
then I went back in 2022. Uh, I did a match for them while I was there. That was like my first like actual European tour, if I remember right. So I wrestled there, and then I went back to Germany in 2024, but that was just to do a seminar.
That's so awesome. I feel like that's another place like you go to Germany and like there's such a different way of wrestling. It's almost like they're not as quick to jump on the like spot sort of way that American fans are sort of programmed to be. They
Hmm?
are very, very patient. And they also like reward really, really good wrestling. And I find that that's I mean, we saw it with one called Manders last year.
Hmm?
His like rise in WXW. And I mean, I will say, like, he is a much better wrestler. And I think it's because those instincts kick in and you, just the change of scenery. I feel like you could speak on that. Like, sometimes you just need to be in front of another crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and like those trips to Europe, those trips to Mexico, all that, they helped me like recharge and refresh a ton. And I found those to be extremely, extremely rewarding. And just getting to meet new people was just awesome.
Well, and that too, you never know, right? Like, you never know who's going to end up where, what ends up happening. That's like probably the biggest thing that I've learned about pro wrestling is like never, ever, ever burn a bridge
No,
because you
absolutely
just don't know. And you I don't think you've ever like been known as somebody that has a hot head or even like
not.
buck stuff. And I think that that really is a huge part of having longevity in professional wrestling. Like um yeah, it's a fun thing to think about, but we're gonna fast forward a pretty decent deal because I feel like right now might very well be like your prime because I think the stuff you've done this year with Power Pro Lucha, I really love the match you had at Labor of Love with Moriarty. Like
Oh,
that,
thank you, thank you.
I was so obsessed with that match. I told everyone that would listen. I think I reposted that thing like 88 times
Thank you
about
so
like, you
much.
guys gotta watch this, man. Like this is literally like Ring of Honor lore in front of you. You like the because I knew the little like um tributes in it, right? Like
Mhm,
the little things that you guys sort of displayed of like just the history of Ring of Honor. Like, how did
mhm.
that come together? Labor of Love. Like, I don't know a whole lot about that, but I love the vibe.
Oh, they're great. They're along with like Power Pro, Lucha, Labor of Love, uh, and like they're one of the companies in Philadelphia that I primarily work for. They've been pretty much like my home company for the last few years. And I've had a lot of really cool moments, like really cool matches there. And yeah, they were having at the time with their biggest show ever, which was that show in April of this year, and they had Lee Moriarty on it. They had Emi Sakura on it, the Best Bros, May Saruga and like Balayan Aki, Daisuke Sasaki from DDT was on it. And they just like went all out, and they drew their biggest crowd they've ever had. And they had a new venue as well, and that place was absolutely awesome. It was in like this like art space that looked like really sick. And yeah, they had been wanting to get Lee Moriarty for a long time, and they got Lee and film against me, and they knew I wanted that match for a long time. Like I've known Lee for years, and we'd never gotten to wrestle, just train together. Um, and yeah, I was so pumped for that match, and especially it being a pure rules match for the pure title, like on the indies as well, and just the history I have at Ring of Honor and him being the guy there now, and the pure title was one of those titles that I always wanted and it always escaped me. So yeah, it was just such a really, really cool moment.
Yeah, and it just is one of those rare moments where things just hit. Like I don't feel anything in that match didn't land.
Mhm.
And it was like in the perfect crowd. Sometimes
Yeah.
the right match meets the right crowd, meets the right time.
Yep.
Those things are very hard to match up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, that match, I would say bell to bell, I think that was the best match I've ever wrestled. It's like a very close tie between that and my first match with Speedball Mike Bailey. But like those two matches, I feel like are like as close to like obviously no match is like perfect, but that was like I feel like as close to like as perfect of a match that I've ever been able to wrestle in terms of just like the intensity, like the sequences we did, the connection to the crowd reaction to everything, like the way they reacted to the fall. Like I feel like my goal with that match was to get them to believe that I, as an unsigned wrestler, could possibly win the ROH Pure title, and I felt like we accomplished that.
Oh, you did, because there was at least a good two or three times where there were, I mean, the truest sense of a false finish
Mhm.
to where I like almost went on Cage Match and was like, did he win the title? Oh my god, I think he's gonna win the title. I swear to God. And again, I'm a fan from a long time, you know, and it's hard for me to get that reaction. So that was definitely when we got the confirmation of doing this. I was like, oh, I'm definitely talking about that match. That's like the best. So
Absolutely. So thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up because I definitely that's a match that I feel like is one of my just like crown jewels, and so the more people that can watch it, the better.
but I feel, you know, just equally as good about what you've been doing with Goonie Burger and
Oh yeah,
Power
yeah.
Pro Lucha and the Triple Tech Championships. And I was a huge Chikara fan back in the day,
Mhm.
like huge. I'm a comic book dork from high school. Like it just hit me in the right way. And the mix of that with legitimate lucha libre, and then of course strong style with guys like Eddie Kingston, and it hits the right. It scratches the right itch, if you will. And
Yep,
I feel like Power Pro Lucha is the perfect spirit of that. But
absolutely.
I also appreciate that it isn't just that
Mhm.
repackaged. And I
Yeah,
think people really get that mixed up. And it's one of those classic things, I think, overall with indies where people love to judge the book by the cover and they don't ever look into what really is going on. You see it all the time with some of these indies where they get this certain image or rap or whatever. And then you ask them, like, well, what's your favorite match? And they don't have one because they don't watch. And so, uh, how did Power Pro come about? How did you get involved? And I just love how unique it is.
yeah. It was I think the promoters of Power Pro felt that Chikara, like a lot of the like especially the younger crew there had a lot of stories that were left unfinished with like kind of how the shutdown and kind of how everything went down. And their goal was just to kind of like give these characters a chance to finish their story or like tell their story in different ways or like have a new life, but also start to create their own characters or start to implement new people into the mix. And I feel like it does a good mix of paying tribute to Chikara while also being its own thing and not just being a repackage, like you said, or just a copy. And Power Pro has been doing amazing. I tell people like, hey, if this is like wrestling something you want to get into, this might be a company to check out because there's something for everybody. I feel like there's really good hard hitting wrestling, but there's also like fun characters and like wacky storylines and things like that. And they've been drawing fantastic crowds. They have an awesome venue. One of my favorite places to work, another one of my home companies, and yeah, Power Pro Lucha. I highly recommend people give it a chance and check it out. And it's I think as they continue growing, they're going to be really something special.
Yeah, and I think that the promoters are smart. They're not overextending, you know, they're keeping with their base of their kind of core venues. I also say it all the time, and I'm so glad that the company Twitter always like reacts and reposts it because they love it. I just call it the Arlen now, the Squash
Yeah,
Center.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that venue. I think it is like so cool,
It's an amazing
especially
menu. Yeah, it's so nice.
yeah, like it looks so cool. It for some weird reason, it gives me almost like the Breakfast Club library on steroids vibes with like the multi stories and everything. I love it. And I loved seeing like the whole building during the Avery Good bag debacle angle, right? I was like, oh
Yeah,
my god, I'm seeing all of the Arlen now.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's one of the nicest venues I've ever worked in for an indie company, and like it has a lot of space too. Like there's like actual locker rooms downstairs. There's like showers, and it's just like it's a really cool spot.
and of course, you know, I talked about Gumi Burger. I have actually interacted with Boar a couple times online. Great guy. Erica Lee is one of the most charismatic human beings from the Indies in a long time.
Mhm.
That has to be a trip teaming with them.
Yeah, Erica and Boar, they're awesome. I have so much fun tagging with them, and it's really been cool because we are learning on the job as a trio. Like when we won the titles, we won like their version of King of Trios first. At that time, we only had three trios matches, which were in that tournament. And then we won the titles, and that wasn't even in the trios match because Erica couldn't make it due to like a big snowstorm. So me and Boar won the titles in a handicap match. And then we had a match against Fist, which main evented one of the anniversario shows. And that was like only our fifth trios match, but that was one of my favorite matches I've worked in a long time as well because it felt like we were clicking on all cylinders, like both us and Fist, who are also a new trio that only had a limited amount of matches. And that match was really special, where I felt like all six of us were just really on the same page and we made something special for that main event. But yeah, we're still learning on the job, and we're getting because everyone has like such different timings and different move sets and things like that. So we're trying to learn how we can implement all of our moves into each other and like really make some fun things happen. But yeah, tag with them has been great. Like I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that they fit that whole like sort of Chikara spirit of like people that you again going back to looking on the surface and being like, okay, I know what this is, and then they completely turn that on its head. Like Boar is physical as hell. He stands in there. He throws them with you. Like it's
Mhm.
beautiful, and Erica too. You know, like
Yeah,
she
yeah,
gets in
absolutely.
there. She's physical. She does the crazy dives. It's really been cool to watch, and of course, you know your stuff with Spectral Envoy, which you have your upcoming last trio standing match, which that feels like a completely chaotic situation, but I can't
hmm
wait to see it.
First time ever trio last man standing trios match.
But and it's one of those Power Pro Lucha has my complete trust that it is going to be pulled off, and it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with that.
And of course, and not related at all, Matt Mako. Come on, man. Like for real, man. I've
uh
tweeted him a
yeah,
few times and
yeah,
you know, Matt,
yeah.
come on. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm trying to think of a lot of the other stuff. I mean, for one, how would you describe well, I'll word it like this. What are some of the biggest positives to being an independent wrestler in 2026? And then what would you say is like the biggest negative?
I mean, the negative is definitely the money, but there's just
Right.
not a lot of money in independent wrestling, and it's very tough to make a living off of independent wrestling, or at least like make a comfortable living off independent wrestling. Because I tell people at the end of the day, you are your own small business and you work pretty much as you're willing to put yourself out there. And obviously, you need to be talented as well and have some sort of buzz about you. And then also, like, you have to figure out how to play the social media game, and it's a whole thing. But the positives are, I think that independent wrestling is cool because we get to connect on a one-on-one level with the fans. Like, we can like look each fan in the eye at most indie shows, you know. Obviously some are bigger than others, but you get to make that personal connection with them. You get to meet them at the merch table. You get to do like meet and greets and like sign autographs and all this stuff with them pretty regularly. Like I can go out and like shake the hands of every fan and in attendance and thank them for coming and supporting independent wrestling. Um, we can set our own schedule, which is awesome. Like I can go take a trip to Europe if I want. I can go take a trip to Mexico if I want. I can go to Australia. I can do like whatever I want with my time because I'm not tied down to one company. And I think that's the coolest part is like that freedom and the ability to kind of do what you want and go where you want and just kind of make things happen.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, it seems like, even with signed talent, they have their own restrictions. And it's interesting to hear that, obviously the biggest thing is the freedom. But I do think of like Colt Cabana had a great quote where he's like, there will always be the ability to make a living as an independent professional wrestler. But it's like what you said, you have to hustle
Yeah.
so exponentially harder than the average person to do
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
And is it worth that strain mentally, physically, emotionally? Uh, and that seems to be a harder thing to do as we go along with, again, now you've got AEW, WWE, the way that they scout quote unquote
Mm,
talent is very, I'll put it interesting for lack of a better word, right?
mm,
Like it's very hard for people to stay on the indies like they used to and create a name because it is kind of like catch 22. I feel like too, where like
mm.
young wrestlers get signed so young
Yes, they don't have that time to like really like branch out and like
they don't
explore.
know who they are. And like I feel really bad for them because that's where you see that turnaround from like people that are in this business and then they just get chewed up and spit out. And it's very refreshing to see someone like yourself. Like it doesn't seem like not, any of that really phases you in the way that like it's not putting you out of the business and you have that drive and that passion. And that's really neat to see because it's hard, especially in the world we live in,
Yes,
to
at
sort of
100%.
like see that, man.
It's yeah, it's just like I tell people, you get out of this like what you're gonna put in. And that's the biggest thing. And I definitely think it's cool to have those experiences and learn how to hustle and learn how to grind and everything. And obviously, I want everyone to get paid, but there's definitely so many like indie wrestlers that get signed and scooped up uh like so early on that they never really have a chance to kind of like explore the world and like really like find themselves and like really find themselves not just as like a wrestler, but just as a person. Like I remember my first time going to Europe, it's just like I have to like learn this like train system of these new countries. Like I have to learn how I have to figure out like where I'm going to stay. I have to figure out how I'm going to get place to place. You know, scheduling all this thing and just like that things like that force you to grow up. Like when I went to Mexico, like all right, here I am living in Mexico. Like I gotta figure out like what I'm gonna do for food and like how much I'm gonna spend on like what's my budget for like groceries and like eating out and things like that. And okay, I got bookings. How am I gonna get to these bookings in this country where I don't speak the language and know really a whole lot of people, you know?
Absolutely, man. It's terrifying. It's the difference between people that do this and make a name for themselves and don't. The only other question I have left, and I think, in this long career that you've had, and it's crazy to think, you're like Jaden Newman in that way as well, where it's like you guys are young vets. It's
I love Jaden.
ridiculous, man.
Mhm.
So what are some goals that you still have?
Goals I still have. One of my goals is to wrestle in all 50 states. I'm at 39 or 40 right now, I believe. So that's one of my main goals. I have like 10 left, and some of them are like the really hard ones. Like Wyoming, which doesn't have any wrestling at all.
Right.
I I want to wrestle all 50 states. I want to try and wrestle in every territory and province in Canada which has wrestling. I want to wrestle as many countries as I can. I'm already at 15 countries now. And I would like to go to Japan. That's one of my other main goals as well, is to get back there. And like, I feel like Japan again is just, to me, my favorite place to wrestle, and like the best style of wrestling, everything like that. And it would be nice to have a contract and a stable, paycheck and everything, but I would like that. But I know that wrestling is so like, what's the word I'm looking for? There's like such an up and down with wrestling that it's hard to like set that as a goal, because a lot of times you end up just setting yourself up for disappointment. Whereas things like, hey, wrestling in every country I can, wrestling every state I can, going back to a country in Japan, like those are goals that I know I can obtain. Whereas not necessarily in this way, but like getting signed to a contract, especially a decent contract with a livable salary, it's almost like winning the lottery in a lot of ways. It has to be like right place, right time, and things like that. And you have to, the only thing you can really do is, and you hear people say this a lot, control controllable. Like you can only make yourself as quality of a talent as you possibly can, and hope a company like wants to take a chance on that. But also I want to try and accomplish these goals while I'm not signed somewhere. That way I have the time and the freedom to accomplish these goals. So I want to try and accomplish those as fast as I can. Also wrestling in Arena Mexico is that's a goal of mine too. That's I got to watch a show there when I was in Mexico, and it was absolutely fucking insane. One of the coolest places I've ever been to. So it's my goal to wrestle there as well.
Oh man, I really would love to be able to see a show there. That is one of my ultimates.
It's so worth it.
Oh man, I just love everything about it. But yeah, Cheeseburger. Where can everyone find you on social media? Because I feel like you have all of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Twitter, or X now, I guess it's called. At Cheeseburger ROH. I should probably change that name at some point, but I think it's kind of funny that I still have it
We
in
all
there.
know you from it though,
Yeah,
so
it's just like, but well, before they got rid of the verification thing, I kept it because I was verified. So I was like, I
mhm.
can't change this, I'm gonna lose my verification. And then they changed the rules, so I was like, oh, it's just kind of funny that I have this. So I'll probably keep it until I
Yeah.
like end up like signed somewhere else. Um, and then World Famous CB on Instagram, and then you can also follow my wrestling school, at Worldwide Dojo on like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're a wrestling school in the Philadelphia area, a little in Bristol, Pennsylvania, a little bit outside Philadelphia. So if you want to become a professional wrestler, check out our website.
Do it. His track record speaks for itself. His trainees are incredible. Thank you again for your time. It's been a pleasure. Until next time, everybody, take it easy.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.